Hello everyone and welcome back to another Challenge Circuit Design Contest course. This time we're at Abbeville by Dr. Jones. This course is apparently quite heavily inspired by Augusta National. Takes on the Augusta Bunker Challenge with a hard limit of 22. Um, Apparently a lot of the holes are kind of inspired by as well. So let's take a look at the plot quickly. It looks pretty well densely planted for something done on console. The routing looks quite side to side at a glance, so maybe we're going to be kind of missing out on a bit of variety of wind directions and kind of playing into different conditions. But sometimes you only notice these things from above as well. So we'll see how that plays as we crack on with the round. So yeah, 22 bunkers. So got to be used fairly sparingly. It looks like we're using water in a lot of places as kind of a different hazard that might be a little bit punishing for challenge circuit difficulty. Um, but he said that the greens are on the slightly slower side to make up for possibly being a little bit tough. So expecting a fun round, expecting a pretty round, that's for certain. So let's crack on. Very nice look off the first tee. Planting looks solid. Looks like a kind of we've got quite a clean cut look around the fairways. Um, Not a lot of planting kind of close to the playing surfaces. Uh, that's a look that I'm not really brave enough to commit to, but looks like it's been done pretty well here. We start with a fairly long par five. The pin's right at the back as well. A little bit more planting kind of around the green, but I'm a fan of the look. So I really like this view over the river as well. Um, Planting's done well around here. I think it looks nice. Into the wind. Looks like we want to kind of be on the left side for a chance at the green in two, but I'm not sure with this length and with this wind I've got much of a shot at getting home. I suppose in theory, if we challenge this bunker, maybe if we have a tailwind, the further up on the left we are, we're not coming in over this bunker. So that makes sense. Um, yeah, we potentially, if we're coming in from this side, we're kind of avoiding this false front as well, and this kind of aggressive contour. But I don't fancy my chance of getting home in two, but we'll give it a go. Try and hit a big one. Wind's pushed it away. It's held the fairway. It's quite a big drive, so maybe a chance of sneaking this home. We do maybe have this slope to give us a little bit of assistance. If we get it up the tier, we're fine. Um, what else am I looking at? I suppose in terms of what's the worst that happens if we try and go for it and come up short, ending up on this bottom tier and having a tricky putt, or particularly ending up down here, is probably about as bad as it gets. There's not a lot of trouble around the green. Kind of, I don't mind chipping from over here. Um, my chance of making birdie from up round here are probably as good, if not better, than if I lay up back here, because then I've still got a pitch, possibly a partial pitch, to a pin that I'm risking spinning it back down, or it's kind of tight to the back edge. So after saying I probably couldn't get home in two, I'm kind of talking myself into going for it. Oh, I've hit it fast. Well, no, I haven't hit it fast actually. I've hit it pretty perfect. It felt fast, but this could be an ideal start to the round. Hey, an eagle on what I thought was going to be a tough hole. Hopefully that bodes pretty well. I feel like the fairway doesn't have a reason to start so far back. Um, Might make a bit more sense to like kind of come in. This looks like a kind of natural point for where the fairway could start, and it would just fill up the view a little more. Um, Kind of, I know no one's hitting 9 iron off the tee to lay back here, but we've got a lot of kind of empty space where there's not a lot going on, kind of devoid of any planting. I just feel like it would make sense to cut that grass shorter. Doesn't really impact anything. And kind of what have we got here? We middle pin. The further right we are, the more we're coming in kind of down the length of this green. This green is quite short, front to back. Um, but the further left we go, the shorter approach we have. Uh, can't really decide what the play is. We have a chance of kind of nailing one over the corner here. That's what I'm going to go for. Try and take out, or pushed it, but if I get it far enough up, hopefully that takes out a lot of the difficulty. Don't really want to be long of this pin and run down that tier. So I suppose that's kind of another uh, possible defense against playing out to the safe side, the right side of the fairway. Um, although we do get a slightly preferable angle using the length of the green, we risk running down the tier and having a tougher putt. Bunkers over the back of the green look nice. Not always the biggest fan of back bunkers, but I can kind of see the Augusta inspiration. Looks like we've used 4 of our 22 as well already. Not bad. Birdie chance. Greens are kind of on the slower side of medium. That can kind of suit CC quite well. But the forum post said they play reasonably well, slower or quicker. So it seems like he was found a way to strike that kind of happy balance. Right, this is kind of a pretty basic kind of terms of strategy idea. The further right we go, again, we're coming straight down the length of the green if we take on this bunker. If we play out to the left, we're coming in over this. It's not really a false front because it's not on the green, but a potentially quite aggressive fall away that could kind of offer some defence to the flag. The only problem I see with coming in from this side, this slope could play some tricks on our ball if we don't hit a great shot. Maybe kind of helps a bit of a push from this side and just kind of collects balls in there rather than coming in from this side. It might just shoot them off over the green. I'd just be aware of making sure that the green slopes are kind of cohesive and make sense with the idea of the hole. That's not a great drive. Might get lucky. No. Because I kind of feel like we've got a more defended green angle from this angle here, but kind of a bit of help from this slope that's going to kind of make a not ideal shot, but an okay shot into a bit better than maybe it deserves. But yeah, the slope in front of the green, in front of the pin, has had that effect and pushed my ball away. And that's kind of my punishment for not hitting it where I wanted to off the tee. Nearly held the chip, but would have had a much easier chance of birdie if I'd have hit a better approach, been on the green and putting. Long par 4 into the wind. So now I think we're at 7 bunkers with these two. We had one on the previous hole. The closer we get to the water, the better angle we get into the green. That's quite kind of a simple idea that's been well executed. We've got a bit of help to the back of the green with this punch bowl kind of helping slope. It's not a full punch bowl, it's not exaggerated, but we do have kind of options to chase a ball in close. I'm not the biggest fan. I think this is the first bunker we've had on the course where the fairway's like cut into the bunker. Um, and that's kind of just a little bit of inconsistency. I kind of get that maybe you're trying to get any ball that runs off left to run into the bunker rather than being caught up in the heavy rough. I feel like if that's the approach we're going to take, we should be doing that all along. Nice that there's this little grove of planting as well that's kind of an ideal line over the off the tee to kind of suggest where we're playing, and a nice little attention to detail this grass walkway. Wind just needs to hold that. One revolution into the heavy rough, and I'm a bit punished. For a long hole, it's not the longest approach, but being in the heavy rough is obviously going to make life a little bit more difficult. And just be aware as well that maybe if we're designing with CC in mind, that a cut of light rough might be worth considering, basically for this exact scenario. Nice view of the houses in the background. Yeah, should have hit forehand, should have clubbed up. That might not have even been enough. So, yeah, not a perfect drive, but kind of very unlucky to have been punished as it was. Wasn't far off being pretty good, and if it was on the fairway, I'd like to feel that I probably hit the green, or I'm at least near the green, because I would have only had a 8 iron maybe. Um, as it is, not a great bunker shot, and a tough par save now. Yeah, I gave it half a chance, but didn't quite get there. So, bogey. Feels a little frustrating if this was a competition round. I'd be a bit annoyed that I've been penalised for being, like, massively penalised for being one revolution into the or off the fairway. Okay, we've got the same kind of thing with the fairway cut into the bunker, so we've got a kind of recurring theme of that now. We kind of set a precedent for it, so it makes sense. The transition is a little bit awkward where we kind of have this point where three surfaces are meeting. There's not really a lot you can do to avoid that. Um, if you're going to cut fairway up to the bunkers, it's just kind of how it is. Nice view though, crossing the stream again. No, let's hit a decent shot. Trying to get that shot back, and I should have done with that. That's a nice shot. A little bit of an aggressive break for such a short putt. But that's all right. I wasn't that confident over that, to be honest, but good enough. Rolled it in. Okay, shorter par 5 now. 531, playing with the wind. The further right we go, we get to use the length of the green, um, but we have a longer second shot in. Um, what's the green doing? It's got a bit of everything on the go, really. Let's just see. We look like we want to. If we can kind of hit the middle of the fairway, it'll hopefully chase around and collect up down here and have a halfway decent shot in. Well, pulled it a little bit, but got away with it. Pretty big drive at the end of the day. Again, I have a similar problem that we keep running into on par fives at the moment. That why wouldn't I go for this? I know I've had a favourable wind, um, but kind of hopefully this is going to collect my ball down towards the pin. I can play kind of this way, hit the green, and hopefully two putt for birdie at the worst. Even if I miss and pull it, and I'm in here, probably got a reasonable chance of making up and down. Um, my layup area, especially for where I've hit my drive, my layup area to kind of take the trouble out play is all the way back here. And I know I have hit a long drive here. Maybe if I'm further back, there's a bit more of a question of where I'm laying up, or if I'm laying up, but I feel like there's not really a reason to lay up after that drive. Maybe that's just a reward for hitting a good drive, though. But decent approach and a chance for a second eagle of the day. Hey, I'd just be aware of the risk and reward. I didn't feel like there was a lot of risk being taken there for basically as big a reward as you're going to get on a golf course. Another bunkerless hole. This one doesn't really have the water in play either, so we're just defending with rough and green contours. Got a bit of a false front. It's not going to affect us with this pin position. Closer to the left of the side of the fairway we go, the less we're kind of being impacted by this potentially, especially on a slight miss hit. We're semi-blinded by it, I suppose, from the right side of the fairway. We can still see the flag though, so let's haul off again. Oh, a little bit quick, got away with it. Runs out to the middle of the fairway, that's nice. A little bit uphill, a little bit with the wind. Be interesting to see kind of how this slope would impact other pins, but I'm about as far away, or this pin's about as far away as it's going to get from it, so very much not impacting here. I said that wasn't going to come into play from the left side of the fairway and then hit a terrible shot. Potentially a tough up and down here, not a lot of green to work with. I've noticed a recurring theme of kind of a lot of pins tucked fairly close to the edge of greens. That's not a great shot, is it? Run away from me. Which can be a reasonable way to kind of lipped out to offer some defence, but it can get a bit repetitive as well. I don't love kind of missing greens and being left with like chips from here, especially in real life. I'd putt that anyway. But this is once again another pin that's kind of 3.5 boxes on from the edge of the green. So just kind of be aware of that. From the over by the left, we're coming in over this mound. We kind of want to be coming in from this way for like a flat approach and a chance to kind of maybe get our ball up here. So we want to be coming in from near this bunker. But with the wind and downhill, I can probably fly it over, even if it pitches in the rough and kicks down. And then hopefully I've got a little pitch in. Fingers crossed, anyway. Well, that's a poor shot. Needs to get lucky. No. I might even be back on the team, aren't I? I've got a flat lie in the rough. That's a terrible drive. Had no excuse. I was aiming for the right side of the fairway and pulled it into the left side of the fairway. Or the left side of the hole. And yeah, coming in over that mound, it's kind of kicked my ball to the right. That was kind of expected. Did just provide a little bit of defence against this pin position. And that's a much more, I feel a lot less kind of irritated by that bogey. It was fully my fault. I yanked it into the water and deserved everything that happened from that point. Had a chance to save my par with maybe a decent up and down, but didn't pull it off. Right. Could use this slope to try and run one round in, but I think, yeah, I'm going to use it as a little bit of a backstop and try and take just a touch off this 9-iron. I like that putting green in the background, right up against the edge of the clubhouse. Pretty cool, kind of. Not sure how likely something like that would be to be in the real world. Obviously, you'd struggle to get a mower up against that wall that tight, but looks cool. Something a little bit different. Clubhouse looks pretty cool as well. Would maybe expect something a bit more Augusta-y from kind of what he said his inspiration is. But I'm a fan of it. I like it. Very smart. Couple of nice kind of decking areas for picnics and that. So let's try and pull a shot off here. Bit slow. Needs to do something. Again, another kind of short range chip. Missed the green by a little bit. Sometimes these are harder when you're on the green as well, if you hit the wrong section of the green. So, like, don't always just think about tucking your pins on the edge of the green for defense, because I've hit a fairly simple chip there that's curled up nice and close and a pretty easy par after missing the green. Whereas anyone who's seen other videos of mine, I've three putted plenty of times from not all that far away as well. So what do we want to do here? We've got a blind tee shot. This is another one where I feel like the fairway uh, could start further back, um, and like at least kind of show us where the fairway is. We can only just about see like these edges, just barely. Whereas if it came back, if the fairway was sort of painted in back here, it would kind of guide our eye. I know we've got the scout camera, so it's not the biggest of kind of issues. We really want to be the left side of the fairway coming into this pin. Try and take this bunker out of play. Try and take some of this mounding out of play, and maybe use that as a punch bowl to collect our shot in near the pin. In terms of like plot building as well and kind of real world thinking, a lot of rivers don't tend to exist this far above grade here, because if you think about it, like the most natural way for the river to flow would be down to the lowest point, and come in here. I'm not saying it doesn't exist and it's impossible, um, but it's just something that often catches my eye, and I tend to avoid doing because I don't really like the way it looks. Um, but there's there's certainly precedent for it. I've played plenty of courses where there are water hazards that are kind of um, above ground level around them. Oh, that's terrible. There's something feeling off about my controller there. That's why I had all those backswings. I'm just going to have to kind of hack it out onto the fairway and lay up. It just hoik it over these trees as much as possible. I'm not sure this bunker is kind of doing much most of the time, but it is impacting how I'm how I'm playing this shot, I guess. Because ideally, I'd just be able to kind of bump one up here. I think I might be able to still, so I'm going to take that on. Oh, and I've clobbed it through the tree. That's kind of an interesting bunker in like a real world setting. Um, like your higher handicapper golfer maybe is looking at laying up near there. Um, you're possibly on a par four, kind of punishing people that have already hit a bad shot and been punished. Um, that one was my fault. I'm not going to blame the controller for that. That felt slow, um, and I'm on my way to making a big number. Oh, good shot. Gave it a chance. Roll the bogey putt in. I've put some telephone numbers up today. Couple of eagles, fair few bogeys. Right, I feel like this takes inspiration from 11 at Augusta as well. Um, like a water hazard down by the green. It's not as long as 11 at Augusta is, but if we take it down the left side of the fairway, uh, we are kind of avoiding the water as much as possible. That's too far down the left. I'm going to need a good bounce. Just about got one. Maybe kind of payback for the bogey I made earlier that was just off the fairway. If we're being hyper nitpicky, maybe this could do with some grass around it. Like if you imagine again, maybe the green stuff would struggle to get in there with machines, and maybe the grass would grow up a little bit. But that's, yeah, quite nitpicky. It wasn't really a problem. Wasn't going to detract from my round. The fact that it's not there. Don't think I've hit that, have I? Gave it halfway, decent read, and left it short. Oh well, rolled the par in. So we've used a lot of our bunkers, a lot of our 22 bunkers as kind of containing back hazards. Um, I feel like if we're going to limit our bunker use so much, we definitely need to be like very. We need to think very carefully about how we're using them, how to get our best mileage out of each of them and most variety. Because I've noticed we've had a lot of bunkers over the back of greens that do a lot of good work visually for the course, for the hole and everything. But We have 22 bunkers on the course, and I'd be willing to bet that quite a lot of them don't really ever see any action. We haven't hit the best of drives. It's not the longest hole, and there's definitely a chance of getting home in two if you hit a decent one. I've given myself a long way in, and now this water hazard is kind of impacting my layup, which is interesting. This is a hole where there is a very real chance of, particularly for players that maybe don't use the longest driver, um, laying up and going for it. Quite a tight kind of potential landing area. Obviously, want to carry the water, but don't want to run into the bunker. You've seen my bunker play hasn't been all that hot at times, so I'm going to take it on. Yeah, found the fairway, or should have found the fairway. Yeah, um, and pitching got a little bit of a backstop. Um, Hopefully, get this close and get another shot back. Go, go. Just held up, but hey, good putt. That was an interesting hole because I felt like I played two pretty good shots. Not the best drive, not the best chip, but took a risk with my second shot and a decent putt. So yeah, well, very happy with birdie. Got a chance to feed this one down to kind of a tucked pin. We've got to use the slopes to sort of play for the middle of the green and hope that it does roll out, roll round. Nice looking hole, a little bit um, sort of rolled back on some of the planting, perhaps, but I like the setting. Pulled it too much and kind of bailed out. That was a safe miss, but now I've got a kind of tough chip, and it's not going to be the easiest par. It's not going to be the easiest up and down from here. I played that well, so happy with that. Deserved that par after a good chip. Made an easy tap in, but see, it's not always about kind of. I know that pin was tucked kind of on the opposite side of the green. I hit a bit of a bailout shot, but it wasn't necessarily the easiest up and down for a fairly long chip on a green that was sloping away from me. And I'm quite pleased with that hole actually. I didn't play it great, but or not off the tee anyway. Similar kind of thing that maybe the fairway starts further back than I'd like it, but doesn't really impact the play. This area looks nice, like well planted. Could do with a splash of colour to kind of liven things up. Um, what do we want? We just kind of want a long drive. Try and have a short shot in that lets us come over that false front. And that's as good as I can hit one. Nice big drive. A little bit of a backstop again. Slightly side hill lie, not the easiest approach. That's pulled and fast. That's an awful approach, and that's a tough chip. Got a lot of slope to consider. Go in. Oh, nearly. That was a well played chip as well. Another one that I'm happy with. Um, Again, didn't play the hole brilliantly, but kind of it was a fair par, I think. I hit the fairway, missed the green, but then hit a good chip to make up for it. Another par four without bunkers. Um, we've got kind of a tight drive down the right. That's a more direct line at the green. Maybe a bit more space coming in from the left, but got a lot more contours to deal with if we come in from that side. Another tucked pin. That's slow. That's awful. I'm probably going to have to, oh, lucky bounce. I was about to say, I'm probably going to have to chip out kind of to the middle and lay up. See, these kind of splashes of colour, if we had a couple more of those further back from the tee, just livens things up a little bit. Sometimes the sort of things, oh, that's long. Sometimes the sort of things that you don't really want to have to look too closely at. Sometimes the use of some of the plants for basically for their colour um, doesn't really hold up that well under close scrutiny, but at a glance can do some good work. This is a really tough putt now. Happy with that. That could have gone anywhere. Yeah, another par that I didn't really play that hole that well, but hit a good putt when I needed to. This looks like a 15 at Augusta, um, with the water front and back. If we're long, we're scooting down towards the water. Um, I'd probably, just from a glance, really probably worth considering like taking this fairway all the way in to the edge of the water. Use the double water plane trick, um, and then if we're long, we're potentially scooching all the way over, rather than getting held up and saved by this little ribbon of heavy rough. Maybe the same on the front. That kind of would make us really think about going for it in two. If we had kind of chances of running away and into the water both sides. Good drive. Another par five that we're playing with the wind. Um, I just dropped the controller as well. That's not going to do it any good. Yeah, I know I've, again, same sort of thing. I've had the wind at my back, so I have hit a good drive, but why wouldn't I go for it? I mean, I've got a reasonably wide fairway at driver distance, reasonable chunk of green to aim at, even if I'm kind of aiming down here and feeding it round. Um, and yeah, if I'm missing, I'm probably at worst getting held up in this heavy rough or this rough back here. I'm not sure I'd like to fully wager like my tournament stakes on that. If I was leading by one coming down the stretch, wouldn't want to be praying that a miss gets held up in this rough. So there is kind of that element, but in a round that, or maybe if I'm chasing the score, that's a risk that I'm happy to take. Yeah, a little bit bailout kind of shot, but up near the green. And like I say again, kind of what's the worst that's going to happen if I miss this green? And if this is the worst that's going to happen, then I'm not too unhappy with that. That's kind of a pretty calculated risk that I can take every time. But a shot that wasn't really all that good. But another decent chip, so I'm again fairly happy with that. Yeah, this fairway kind of around the bunker is happening a lot more. Um, so perhaps I retract my earlier sort of knocking of it. Um, Still does look a bit awkward, but that's kind of just a limitation of how it is. We can't do a lot about that. Maybe just kind of cut it with a swooping line here that, but we're still going to have like an awkward junction of three different surfaces. So yeah, can't really offer too much more on that. Maybe I like the splash of color here. Maybe we could have a bit more around the green as well. And like I feel like this is a signature hole. This looks kind of broadly based on 12 at Augusta with the bunker over the back. Maybe also a bit of 16 with the water coming over the water and everything. So if we're leaning like more heavily into that inspiration, that would be a good touch, good place to bring in some of the flowers and everything. But as it is, I'm pretty happy on the green. Not the best swing. Just said be happy on the green, so can't be too unhappy with that. Fairly tough putt, bit of a double, even triple breaker. Just roll it up close. Haven't hit it at all. Got scared of it, and now I've got a tough par save. Nope, slid by. My fault for a poor putt. Not the best tee shot, a little bit safe, a little bit kind of scared of it, and then yeah, pretty poor putt. Um, Drivable par four to finish. So we have a similar kind of thing that we have with our second shots on par fives. And if we kind of look at it from the perspective of why wouldn't I try and go for this? What's the worst miss? A slow that I push into the water is kind of pretty terrible. So that's talking me out of going for it, perhaps. But my miss is usually a fast, which is collecting in this bunker. Um, Maybe a toughish chip because the green does sort of run away from us from this bunker. Um, but I think there's another sort of calculated risk, even into the wind, that I'm willing to take. If I go here, if I hit it well, I'm sort of collecting on the green, and hopefully this is pushing me round kind of down to this section and have a chance at eagle or two putt birdie. If I hit it a bit quick, I'm here. My chance of making birdie out of the bunker are as good or better than they are from sort of laying up here. A layup here is possibly asking for a partial driver and probably a partial pitch as well. Risking running into that bunker, uh, and if I'm hitting three wood, I'm kind of maybe risking that bunker into the wind. I feel like we've protected the layup option as much as we're protecting going for it. So I don't really have a reason not to go for it. Like I don't really want to lay up all the way back here because that's still a fairly tucked pin uh, with trouble around it. Like I kind of just am gonna go for it. Gonna hit it here. Maybe hit that little slightly fast one. And yeah, bunker maybe or good kick, and we're on the fringe. So, and my chance of making birdie from here are probably better than my chance of making birdie from back on the fairway on the other side of the river. A decent chip, a well played hole, a calculated risk, but I feel like that's the better, more sensible, kind of easier path to making a score. Really interesting round, really interesting course. I put up some absolutely erratic numbers. Two eagles, four birdies, and five bogeys for a 3 under 69. Uh, yeah, one of the more inconsistent rounds I'm going to put together. But to be fair, of the bogeys, one of them was maybe a bit unfortunate, but the rest of them were pretty well deserved. I can pinpoint mistakes that I made that cost me shots. And the shots I have picked up, probably not going to eagle the first every time I play it. Done pretty well to get away with that. Some calculated risks and maybe a bit of good fortune. But there's a chance to make a score, obviously, but there's also every chance to have it all go to pieces and put up some really big numbers. So thanks very much for the round. Really enjoyed it. Really cool course. Best of luck in the contest. And thanks to everyone that's watching. Hope to catch you in another video, and I hope you have a great day. See you all soon. Bye for now.